now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Beautiful people, it is Monday, September the 7th. How are you guys? I hope that you had a fabulous weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see who's here with us. We do have some guests who are going to be joining us here in a little bit. So we've got Bruce, who has a lot of long comments. Okay. Then we'll get to some of those comments, Bruce. We've got Louis who's joining us. Louis says, good morning, blessed Monday with God's grace and showering over us. Thank you so much, Louis. I'm sitting back and taking in the show. Do it, CMR. Thank you so much, Lou. We are about to do it. Stay safe, Cayman. Good morning, Jake. Good morning, Larry. How are you guys? It looks like it's a dreary day outside. It appears to have rained at some point in the early morning hours. So we may be in for more rain today. Don't know. That's okay. We totally do not mind the rain because it makes us appreciate the sunshine even more. So good morning, Dean. Hi, Evelyn. How are you guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. So as you guys know, on Friday, there is a bit of breaking news. Not a bit, it's big news. The civil partnership law is now in place, along with all of the other pieces of legislation that were amended to go with it. So, wow, what a day that was. On Friday morning, Juliana O'Connor Connolly sent out a message requesting and pleading and begging for prayer that something would have stopped the inevitable. And I'm just trying to see if I can pull that up here in case you guys missed it. Let me just see here. I've gotten a few messages already this morning. Thank you guys so much. Okay. Yes. So I've got some exciting news about tomorrow's lineup for a show that we're doing at 2 p.m. I want to make sure that you guys tune in for that. So Miss Juliana O'Connor Connolly sent out this voice note to pastors. I guess she's in some sort of a pastors group, and she was pleading and begging them for prayer, that we need prayer to stop the civil partnership. So the name was changed slightly from domestic partnership to civil partnership, and there were some additional changes that were taken on board after they received feedback from the governor's after the governor, my apologies, received feedback from the general public as well as from the attorney general and some other pieces and bits and so on. So let me just have a quick look here. Juliana. Yes, so she did this voice note. It kind of went a little bit viral with her begging and pleading for pastors to pray, because she said that on Friday was going to change the history of the Cayman Islands forever, the Christian history of the Cayman Islands. So we will have a look at that. I'm just going to put the video so that you guys can hear it in case you missed it. And that's going to be our topic today. We have two young men who are joining us, and we are going to see from the perspective of the Caymanian people in this community who were impacted by this bill, how they feel about it, and how they also feel about what has been happening in the community, because this has really caused a rift. I mean, I'm so shocked that people are so upset about this bill, and they've never been upset about anything else before. So we have also announced yesterday that Katina Anglin has said that she has received legal aid, but still requires $4,000, and she's asking for your donations to be able to begin the legal process of challenging the governor and the FCO. So I'm not really sure how she can challenge the governor and the FCO's office through the courts in the Cayman Islands. That sounds a little bit strange to me. But I am also not a lawyer, although I went to law school. Katina has just recently graduated from law school. I don't think she's actually won any cases yet. And she seems to think somehow she has been anointed as QC. It's a funny thing about a little bit of knowledge, especially when it comes to the law. people really seem to think that they have a greater understanding of the law than they do. So everybody wants to think they're legal experts on this particular topic. And I do sit back and find it incredibly interesting. So just to give you guys a bit of historical information and get you caught up on where we are, right? So the legal challenge was started by Chantel Day, who is a Caymanian, and her partner, Vicky Bodden. So before they even started the legal challenge, they impeached, begged, I don't know what you want to call it, the government, which is this current government, to do something about this situation. Now, the government ignored them. Okay, so when we sit back and we talk about, what has transpired, and kind of what's going on in terms of even now, I do find it very, very interesting that people are saying, oh, the premier has somehow neglected to do his job. Because the truth of the matter is, the premier has neglected to do his job from the onset. So if the argument is now he's neglecting to do his job, the real argument should be that he neglected to do his job a long time ago. What do I mean by that? Well, when they contacted him and they wrote him, he had an obligation to respond to them as premier of this country. He had an obligation to inquire, well, what is it that you want? How can we do something about this situation? I want you guys to remember very, very clearly that the premier is an experienced lawyer. So he's not like myself, someone who has a law degree with no experience. He's not like Katina Anglin, someone who's just graduated from law school and thinks she's a QC. He has actually had years of experience in the legal profession. And not only has Alden had years of experience in the legal profession, but Alden has also, please remember this, been a partner in a law firm. And he has argued cases and he has won cases, and I'm sure he's also lost a few cases along the way. So here you have someone who has a significant amount of experience, seeing that someone is contacting him about something that he knew for quite some time would be coming down the pipeline. Anyone who tells the people of the Cayman Islands that this is new and they weren't expecting this are liars. Any elected official, they're liars. This has been ongoing for over 5 years. So I really want to put this in context and put a reality spin on this, because the truth is the only thing that we need to concern ourselves with. So this has been ongoing for 5 years. So whoever thought that, wow, we could continue this for another 5 years, another 10 years, or indefinitely, was really misleading the people of the Cayman Islands and being less than genuine about the situation. So when he first ignored these women in their letter that they sent to him saying, we would like a solution to this, let us also remember that at the time they were not asking for a same-sex marriage situation. They were just asking for something that would give them the rights that they need in order to, have one partner on the other partner's life insurance, pension. They've adopted a child in another jurisdiction. That adoption is recognized in that jurisdiction. Here in the Cayman Islands, unfortunately, that adoption is not even recognized. So there were practical reasons that they were seeking to engage and have an audience with the premier on this and asking him to provide them with some sort of a solution. Okay. So the premier ignored them. Let's fast forward a little bit. And the governor at the time, so this would have been before this current governor. So this is when he was premier last time. The governor at the time said, you need to go to the courts. So they wrote to the governor as well. the governor said, listen, we don't have any remit over this situation. You need to go to the courts. So those persons who are now sitting down and telling you that the UK is intervening in the affairs of the Cayman Islands, and they have somehow interjected in such a way that is unreasonable, really are not giving you the full story of what would have transpired. And people are not conveniently remembering all of these details. So the governor said no. The FCA said, we want you guys to deal with this. This is your internal affairs and this is your business. And you probably do need to fix it, but we will leave that to the territories to do. Right. So we have a number of legal challenges that were mounted, right? They won round one, they being Chantal, Day, and Vicky. They won round one in the Grand Court, where the Chief Justice, who is a Caribbean man, said, enough of this. You guys are in contravention of the Constitution, and this needs to be fixed, and I will fix it. So he wasn't pussyfooting around. His position was fix it and fix it now. Change the marriage law, and he changed the marriage law. Of course, immediately there was a legal challenge. Now, the premier who authorized that legal challenge said that they being the courts, did not have the power to change a law in the manner in which they did. So that essentially they were overstepping their boundaries. Okay. So that legal challenge went before the courts to the next tier or the next level once you appeal, which was the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal said, yes, we agree that legally the Chief Justice overstepped his boundaries and he does not have the power to change the marriage law. However, and this is a big however, folks, and I have said it, I don't know how many times on this program and otherwise. I have read a lot of cases. No, I'm not a qualified lawyer, but I've had the opportunity to read a lot of cases. Even now, over the weekend, you guys saw that we reported on a couple of cases that were in court. One was about a probate matter, executors of estate, and so on. So I read cases ongoing. Some are a little bit more easier to read than others, but I have a basic understanding of what I'm reading. And the most interesting thing is, I have never in my career seen a decision where the court made one ruling and then issued a directive saying, do this. This was the first time that I've ever seen it. And I would love for some of my friends in the legal profession to show me where the court has ever done this before, especially here in the Cayman Islands. So the Court of Appeal agreed. They overturned the decision of the Chief Justice. They said, nope, he can't change the marriage law in this regard. However, you guys need to fix this. And by fix it, we mean offering a legal equivalent of same-sex marriages. You can call it whatever the hell you want. You can call it domestic partnerships. You can call it civil partnerships. You can call it Partnerships 101 law. It doesn't matter. The court said you need to fix it because you are actually in contravention of the Bill of Rights and of your Constitution. Not only did they make this proclamation, this declaration that it needed to be fixed, they also indicated it needed to be fixed expeditiously, right away. So we hear the opposition saying, oh, but take your time. We have all the time in the world. Let's have a consultation period. Let's take another 5 years. That's not what the Court of Appeal said. The Court of Appeal said fix it and fix it expeditiously, which in law means you better fix it right away. It has to be a priority. You can't sit down and have 10 other pieces of legislation become a priority, and this does not. So I am calling on every single member of the Legislative Assembly who continues with this rhetoric that, it was unreasonable, et cetera, and really want to impeach you, to ask for a degree of honesty from your legislative assembly members. They're being disingenuous. They're playing politics with this. And it is unfortunate that, they are playing politics with this, because in the mix of all of this, there are people who are simply trying to live their lives and who wish to be left alone with some rights. It is so simple. And on the other hand, you have people who are hell bent on preventing that from happening at any means possible. So the court said to fix it. Alden made an attempt, and now I can't speak to how genuine his attempt was or how genuine it wasn't. That would be a matter for him and the members of his party to tell you what discussion, the members of his government rather, to tell you what discussions were undertaken in regards to this. The opposition claims that he did not do a particularly good job of getting it done. And there was no consultation with them, and there was no this, and there was no that. My question is, how much consultation do you really need? 5 years later, from the time that these ladies actually sent a letter to the premier, how much consultation do you require? And so they drafted something. It was, in the eyes of the opposition, problematic. It was this, it was that. There's been a video floating around, which I'll show you guys a little bit later on, with Chris Saunders, in which he said, the premier could have undertaken consultation because he had email evidence that from, I think he said February or something, the premier was essentially telling the FCO or someone or another that this was going to get done. And of course he had to tell them that, because the courts said, do it, get it done. So this argument of, the UK's overstepping their bounds, they can't tell us what to do, is a bit of a duplicitous argument. And here's why. And no other jurisdiction has been forced to do it but the Cayman Islands. So the real issue here, from the perspective of the FCO and the governor's office, is unlike the other jurisdictions, we actually have a court case in which the court gave a directive. The court actually said, you are in contravention of your Bill of Rights, and you must do X, Y, Z. That would be the equivalent of me going to court, and the court said, I have to do X, Y, Z, and I don't do it. If I don't do it, there will be consequences. Part of the consequences could be because as an individual, if you ignore an order of the court, you are found to be in contravention of that order, you will go to jail. It's simple as that. You ignore something the court has said, they have the power to send you to jail. Now, unfortunately, the court doesn't have the power to send the government of the Cayman Islands to jail. Too bad, because some of them deserve to be in jail. But nonetheless, a contempt order cannot be issued against the entire government of the Cayman Islands. So the next option then, if you cannot issue a contempt order against the Cayman Islands, is from the perspective of the governor's office. They're sitting there going, well, we need to enforce it. The government of the Cayman Islands has proven on more than one occasion they're incapable of dealing with this. Fair enough. You're never going to be able to handle it. You're bowing to the pressures of a vocal minority of persons. So we will now take care of this situation and do it for you. And that is precisely what has been done. We'll give you a consultation period. We're not going to give you 5 years. We're not going to give you 2 years. This is going to get done expeditiously, as the courts have said. Now, we have people like Juliana O'Connor-Connolly. We have people like Katina Anglin, who all want to be experts. Now, at least to her credit, Juliana is a lawyer. I don't know how much practicing she's done. I think she's been a politician for at least 20 something years. None of these people are constitutional experts, and none of them are constitutional lawyers. But they want to argue points of constitutional law in reference to Section 81 of the Cayman's Constitution, which is a section under which the governor is utilizing to make this decision effectively. It's some sort of emergency reserve powers that the FCO has. So through the governor, the FCO is getting this done. So Katina jumps up. Apparently she has a group called the Christian, let me try to pull it up. The Christian something something group. And so now, let me just have a quick look here. Now she has been championing this issue, claiming that she's the poster child for all things of God and all things of a religious nature, apparently. And well, not all things, because it's the only godly issue that we're concerned about in this country. We're not concerned about any of the other sins that the Bible speaks about. This is it. This is the only sin that matters. Nothing else. Right? So every Christian who has been involved in fornicating, adultery, child abuse, child neglect, not maintaining their children, murder, and far more have no issues with any of those things. They're not going to send out a request for national prayer on those topics, but instead will send out a national prayer request on this, begging, beseeching in the most passionate way. Now, I know that people can get very passionate about topics because, as you guys know, I'm a hot firecracker at times. I mean, listen, I get passionate about a lot of things. But you know what gets me passionate is when people abuse children, the most innocent people in their communities. That gets me passionate. When people abuse the elderly, people who've dedicated their entire lives to their families and to serving the community, and then when they get old, they're neglected and abused, that gets me passionate. When people abuse animals who have no ability to protect themselves, right? And we are charged with taking care of them. Read your Bible, folks, if you want to pretend like you're an expert in the Bible. That's our responsibility. And we neglect them, we abuse them, we do the most. Those are the things that gets me passionate. Injustices against their own people who are not able to work and have independent freedoms in this country. That gets me passionate. The fact that in this country, 99% of you as Caymanians have no voice, you're not permitted or allowed to speak out on any issue, that is what gets me passionate. And if you dare speak out, you're going to lose your job. So I am passionate when I see Caymanians decide to use their voice for a singular issue and nothing else. And so when I sit here and I call a spade, as I often do, and I tell you people like Katina, listen, I am happy that Katina is a recovered crack addict. I could not ask for anything more because as a Caymanian, I don't want to see any of our people out there strung out on crack, heroin, and nothing, right? I want to see us being productive people of this community. So she's no longer in crack. She has a son who's incarcerated for a life sentence for, I believe, multiple murders. And we sit back now and put her, well, not we, I want to be very, very clear. Some of you sit back and allow her to be the voice for this and allow her to champion this cause and put her on a pedestal as though she is in any position to talk to people about what's morally right, what's morally wrong, what Christians should and shouldn't do. And I look at people like her, and again, I'm not trying to get into her business. I don't really know Katina on a personal level. So I only know what's already on the street, folks. So I know that everybody in the District of West Bay says this is a woman who has failed her own child. So when you talk about you're being passionate about what adults are doing in the confines of their home and giving them rights to be equal in a community, when it wasn't that long ago that as a woman you had no right to even vote, you had no right to have a say in anything. As a Black person, it wasn't that long ago that you also had no rights. And the same Bible that you use now to support and to preach out against these individuals would have been the same Bible that would have been utilized against you, to keep you separate but quote unquote equal. And the courts have said there is no such thing as separate but equal. So, yes, I do find it peculiar that the people who are championing these causes themselves are not individuals who have lived a life without blemish, like all of us. But my God, some of the things that they have done and some of the things that they have been involved in should really make them less likely than anybody else to be trying to judge other people. Girl, you were a crack addict and people have forgiven you, and people are willing to look past that and say you can have a future. You can have the right to go to law school. You can have the right to do all of these things. Our people are so blinded by their hate and there's no other word for it. It's just hate for this particular segment of our community that they will do anything and they will argue anything in order to make a point. So, Katina is supposed to be this virtuous woman now, quoting the Bible, quoting the law. This is what it is. We need to fight for this. We need to keep gay people under our thumbs. Don't give them any rights. That's the here and now. So let us for a moment forget her past, although we should never forget her past. This is the same woman who just a few weeks ago sent out in her WhatsApp group, and I have the WhatsApp messages, folks, so I'm not talking something I don't know. I'm not in her WhatsApp group, so I wasn't privy to it firsthand, but there are people who are in her group who have shared screenshots of messages. Now imagine that. You're in a group supposedly where all of you are like-minded. And there are people in your group who obviously do not believe in the tactics that you're using. Because they have turned around and shared with me and other members of the media screenshots from Katina where she has basically said, oh, this is how we can undermine the likes on Cayman News Service. This is what you do. And apparently she also thinks she's an IT expert and how to go in and undermine the likes for a comment. Now, let's pause and understand what I've just said. A woman who is claiming to be virtuous, who is claiming to be a Christian, who's claiming to be in the church, who is telling you that there's a moral element to this argument. We have to fight against the LGBT community because God apparently said that's what we must do, is also a woman who is so dishonest at her core and knows that they don't have the support that they want people to believe that they have. That she is telling people in her group, this is how you dishonestly trick the numbers on Cayman News Service to look like when we comment or when we do certain things, we have more of a support than we do. I'm sorry. If you are so powerful in your position, why would you have to do that? Why would you have to lie and deceive to get the general public to believe that you have more persons supporting your position than you do? You know why? Because you are a vocal minority. You do not represent the average Caymanian. You really don't. The average Caymanian message me on a daily basis. They don't want to publicly get involved in this argument. They don't want to get on the blogs. They don't want to set up this Christian coalition group or whatever foolishness you've called it. They don't want to do any of those things, but they will share their opinions with me. And they were elated and they were happy when the governor did what he did. They said, finally. And you want to know something, folks? Some of those people are in the church. Some of them are ministers or ministers' wives. Because, they have children. They have nieces and nephews. They have brothers and sisters who have struggled with their sexuality in a community that refuses to accept them. And they have said, good, it's about damn time there was some equality in this country for this community. Let's listen now to the voice note. I know our guests have joined us, so we're going to bring in our guests here in a minute. But I want you to listen to the voice note from Juliana O'Connor Conley. Now, on this point, let me also say this. Okay? There is a petition, and there's been more petitions than I have known what to do with, calling on a vote of no confidence against the government. So I don't know if it's the same petition or if it's actually different petitions, but it keeps changing, right? So one was by some powery girl, I forget what her first name is now. There was another one that was by Miss Linda McField. And now I see one on here that is saying that it's being pushed by Pastor Sykes. And then we have Katina Anglin issuing some sort of a statement where she says over the weekend that she has formed a group called the Christian Association for Civics. I don't even know what that means. Anybody cares to explain to me exactly what that is? So she's formed that group just to fight against this particular law and this particular movement. And so she makes all sorts of assertions about the governor's right to do this, that, and the next thing. So she's challenged him. She's found a lawyer to take her case. And believe me, that's the easiest thing in the world to do. Because lawyers will sell their grandmothers down the river, much less take a case for a few dollars. They'll take a case, they'll argue your case, and that doesn't mean that you're going to win. But she apparently has said that she has been approved for legal aid, with the exception that the legal aid office has said, well, you need to come up with $4,000 of your own money. So she has sent out a plea on Friday, claiming that my constitution was being butchered. The majority of my people's concerns were rejected and my legislators were being disrespected. This is what she claims, right? The majority of my people's concerns were rejected. Really? Okay. The majority of people are unaware of the dangerous precedent that is being set by the governor taking action in this way, although the government and its leadership makes no mention of it. All of these things are actually untrue. The premier had said, you do not want the governor and the FCO to exercise their powers under Section 81. Because once they come to the conclusion that they've had to do it once, they're going to understand that as long as we remain connected to them, we, the people of the Cayman Islands, are not mature enough to listen to a court directive. And there will be other times, just like now, probably, that they will have to use Section 81. They haven't had to do it before. And I don't think that they probably will ever have to do it again, but it's just the ignorance of our people on this particular topic. But you know what? They're going to use that argument to keep Section 81 as a fundamental part of our Constitution until we decide to go independent. And when that day comes, then it is what it is. But until that day, the UK cannot be responsible for us ultimately and allow us to run amok. So there are things in here that Katina has said that are blatantly untrue. Well, anyway, she claims that she has been awarded legal aid. and she has to make a mandatory contribution of $4,000. And she's asking for people to send this money to her bank account. Now, I'm not going to get into the logistics of what this Christian Association for Civics actually does, how they're keeping account of donations, where's the accounts, and all of those things, because nobody expects people who are involved in this topic to actually be honest. Isn't that amazing? Katina doesn't have a job, so I think her only job right now is actually pushing this agenda. Now, we also know that Katina has an interest in political office, and apparently she has expressed a desire to run against Makiva Bush in the District of West Bay. So let me just bring up a few things here. And now that I've put this in a little bit of a historical context, and I've brought you mostly up to speed on this. So this is her statement over the weekend. Breaking news, she says. So she writes her own press release on org.com, change.org, saying the people of Cayman Islands initiate a legal challenge against the UK. Well, technically, you've not initiated it at all. You've gotten legal aid to possibly initiate it if you can come up with the $4,000. So that headline is a bold-faced lie. The other bit about it being the people of the Cayman Islands initiating it is a bold-faced lie. What she needs to say is Katina Anglin or her Christian group, Christian whatever for civics, has initiated it. That would be a truthful position. So I don't know if she's going to get the $4,000 or where she's going to get it from. I know that friends of mine were approached about giving her money. Some of them could write her a check for the full $4,000, and they have said, nope, not even a dollar. So good luck. I'm sure she'll eventually, listen, people are so desperate on this topic that they would rather not pay their mortgages, feed their children, feed the hungry of this country, and instead find money to give to Katina. That I do believe. Let's have a look at the video from Juliana that she issued on Friday.
Good morning, pastors. This is Sister Juliana O'Connor Conley from the Cayman Islands, a member of the Church of God Holiness and a member of Parliament. I am respectfully and humbly requesting that all those who know the value of an effectual, fervent prayer to please petition heaven this morning on behalf of our beloved Cayman Islands. Today apparently is the day that the governor will put into force the civil partnership law and all the ancillary laws that he's amending under Section 801 of our Constitution. In my respectful view, this will be a seismic shift in our Christian heritage in the way we have followed God over the years. Indeed, he has founded it upon the seas. So I'm asking, I'm begging, I'm imploring to please cry out on our behalf, because two can chase 10,000 and there are many more of you within this pastoral group. So remember Cayman in a special way today. Remember the church, remember the word of God, that he will give us an Elijah deliverance so that they will know that he is still the Lord our God. Our God reigns. We know that, but we need the world to know it. Pray for our government, our governor, the FCO, and those who are supporting this evil that is being forced upon us. I thank you most sincerely. God bless you.
Okay, so she is praying that about this evil that's being forced upon us. We've never heard her send out a message or prayer request about the evil that is being forced upon our children who are abused. Cayman Brac, try hush. You've been the representative for Cayman Brac longer than you should be. And honestly, Cayman Brac has one of the worst records for child abuse and child molestation. Folks, we need to talk the truth in this country, and we are talking the truth on this show. They are some of the most egregious, because apparently Brackers are so, and I hate to put people in a boat, but I'm going to say this, they appear to be so idle at times that all they can find time to do is drink and molest people's children. And it's like an ongoing thing. Brackers will tell you themselves. Even Caymanians and Brackers who've moved back home, they've said the only concern they have is they got to watch keep an eye on their children, because they know from when they were growing up how children there are targeted. And this is a person talking about holiness church. The church has never spoken out about these egregious things that are happening in our community. The rampant crime and murder, they have nothing to say about, but this is the one topic that they will use their voice on over and over again. It's quite unbelievable, to be honest. So the governor has pushed it through. Here it is, civil partnership law. It's not a very long or big piece of legislation. I think it's 30 something pages. We've got a copy of it here. And it is what it is, folks. Let's bring our guests into the conversation now. So we have two guests on this topic. One is from overseas and one is right here in the Cayman Islands. What I want to say, and I'm going to get into this about King, is one of the interesting things is that for a very long time, the same group of vocal minority on this topic have been saying that, it's not Caymanians that want this. It's not the Caymanian LGBT community. It's the foreigners. So we wanted to make this a Cayman versus expat conversation. And when that obviously wasn't the case, when one of our own were the ones who stood up and said, I need my rights, all of a sudden, poor Chantel, who was actually a very lovely young lady, has been castigated, relegated. Oh, she's this, she's that. Listen, I have even heard on the Mall Road that her own family members, some of her own family members, have had the most negative things to say about this young lady who does not deserve it. That is how much hate they have in their hearts, where they will take someone that they have known their entire lives. They know her true character. They know how hard this young lady has worked to make her parents strong. Her parents have stood by her. And yet they will sit back and why is she doing this? She's ashamed to the Cayman Islands. She's this, she's that. Oh yeah. How shameful for someone to try to stand up for themselves. So to finish up my brief summary of what has transpired, the courts didn't say change the marriage law. What they said was put in an equivalency in place to give them the same rights. So initially the church, my apologies, and these vocal individuals were saying that their issue was with the institution of marriage, the definition of marriage, because supposedly the church has defined marriage, despite the fact that the institution of marriage existed thousands of years before religion. Somehow the church has ownership of marriage. When that argument was no longer legally on the table, you keep moving the guideposts, right? This is what's happening. You can never catch it. You can never catch their argument because they keep shifting it and they keep moving it around to conveniently fit their hate. So when it was no longer about changing the definition of marriage, it then became, oh, domestic partnerships? Oh, no. We can't have that either. Now, there were some of them who said, okay, don't change the marriage law, give them something else. And now that you've given them something else, no, we can't have that something else. They don't want that either. This is precisely why the governor and the FCO has stepped in. This was going to be a circular thing. We're going to be, the greyhound dogs that run in the track on a big circle, and all they do is chase that fake rabbit, and they never get anywhere. Or when a dog chases its tail, it just goes in circles. And there's no end to that kind of thinking, and there's no end to that kind of logic, because they'll use anything to justify the way that they feel about this community. So let's bring in now members of the LGBT community. I do see some of your comments coming in. So good morning to Irvlyn. Hi, Dean. Olivia, Cecile from the UK. Good morning, Debbie. Hi, Joy from Texas. Ronita, thank you so much. JD, appreciate you tuning in. Corinne says, Monday, have a beautiful week, wonderful week, thank you. And says, thank you, Sandy, for explaining this to the people who don't understand. Good morning, Robert. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Sue. Sue says some of the comments they put up on this vote are unbelievably cruel and crazy. So mean towards the LGBT. It's very, very sad. Robert says the use of executive power. This is like America's Got Talent with the golden buzzer. That's a good analogy. Anne says, agree, it is so sad that there's so many hateful people or hateful so-called Christians there. Sue agrees with her, says, yes, very hateful, and it's not a Christian way to be. And she also says, so right, Sandy, she is unbelievable. King, good morning.
Oh,
How are you?
good day, good morning.
Yes, well, King is in the UK, so he's in a different time zone. So it's now afternoon for
Very
you.
different. Yeah, it is
So
afternoon, but
it's
that's good day.
afternoon there. Thank you so much, King, for joining us this morning. Now, listen, what I find so
Absolutely.
incredibly interesting is, a lot of these individuals will say to me, oh, the LGBT community is going to take over. It's crazy, right? They're going to start
Mhm,
demanding all sorts of stuff and doing the most. And next thing you
mhm.
know, they're going to be, you know, molesting their children, or they're going to be doing I mean, the ignorance on the discussion and the topic is amazing. But what I know from having friends in the LGBT community for many, many years is that the majority of them are very quiet individuals. They have no interest in civics, they have no interest in the Constitution. And in fact, in order to live their lives and be who they want to be freely, and that doesn't mean walking up and down in the streets having sex in public or any of that stuff. It means just living a private life and not being judged by the likes of these so-called Christians. A lot of our Caymanians have moved overseas and have lived abroad. And our next guest, who we're going to bring in here in a little bit, Noel, has also done that, but he has now returned to the Cayman Islands. Now, King, you are living overseas for more than one reason. So I want you to tell us a little bit about what your experience has been and what you have had to endure having been a Caymanian as part of this community. And the interesting thing about King is, King, I have known you for, I've lost count on how long it's been, but it's been a while. You're trying
About
to think about how long it's
14,
been as well?
14 years. I think
Yes,
it's been 14, 15, 15.
because you were still
Yeah,
in
the
high
thing.
school. You were in high school at the time, or junior high?
Yeah, I was in high school. I was in high school when we first met, doing the computer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Was it
it's
high
been a really
school?
long
Wow,
time.
yeah.
And King and I, I would like to think, and King can certainly give his own opinion on this, a bit of a mentor to him. And
Hmm.
he has never expressed to me what his sexuality is. We've never had the conversation. I've never thought that it was something that was any of my business. And if you didn't bring it up to me, then I certainly was never going to bring it up to you. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about why you're here with us today and why you have joined this conversation.
I just like to see all the changes going on, the positive change. And I mean, I'm very overwhelmed to be honest. Um, my story is a long one, and I'll save it for the book. But I will say that I'm very proud of Chantel. Chantel's mother is actually one of my very good friends. Um, so I've been following that journey as well for a while. I needed a lot of answers for myself, but those answers would never be questioned for me growing up and up until well I moved away, to be honest. And it impacted my quality of life, and I just it was more of a I just decided to put myself in sort of a don't ask, don't tell situation, and
Mm-hmm.
that way I didn't offend the people I had to work with or I mean, some people they will just like they would know, and it's like, all right, we can have that conversation if you're open to it, and that's cool. But
Mm-hmm.
others, especially family, it's like with family, it's like, okay, we know, but we don't want you to say anything because then when you put it into words, it hurts us more because then you said
Mm,
this in out loud. Keep it to
wow.
yourself, and that's what I did. That is
Yeah.
what I did.
And it's kind of interesting, King, that you say that because I'm actually
Mhm,
thinking about, the many conversations that you and I have had about all sorts of things, and it has never come
mhm,
up. And I kind of, now that you're saying that, I
mhm.
never thought maybe because I didn't broach the topic that you may have felt the same way even about us, that it was kind of a don't ask, don't tell situation. I just thought that
Mhm.
it wasn't really my business. And if you wanted to talk about it, then certainly you would have approached the discussion. But now that you've said that, I wonder if maybe I could have handled things a little bit different with you as well.
I I
Um,
don't I don't think so. I don't think you should feel any kind of way about it. It's because honestly, it was a coping mechanism. So as simple as it may have been, there's a lot of trauma
mhm,
attached to it, to the
mhm,
reasoning behind it, and
mhm,
honestly, it was easy to just stay off the radar and live peacefully. Honestly, as you said,
yeah,
just stay quiet. I don't trouble nobody. Nobody trouble me. That way,
right,
um, I'm okay, and then my family is okay because they don't have to hear anything about me on the street or anything, sort of. So it's like,
right.
okay, well, that's my middle ground. So let me just exist. But as I said, that was impacting my quality of life because
Mhm,
um, there's still so many things about myself I didn't get to explore like a normal teenager or anything like that. So
mhm,
it's like finding some of those answers in your day-to-day life now as an adult, or in my day-to-day life as an adult. It's like, okay, I need to put time aside to go and socialize and learn about myself. No, I don't even have much time to do that at the moment. Can't do it anyway,
yeah,
coronavirus and all. But
yeah.
it's uh,
So are you at the
I
point
can just
now?
say that. Mhm,
Sorry, I was just going to ask, are you at the point now in your personal journey where you are just
mhm.
coming to terms with being able to say this is who you are and exploring, those options as that person, as a member of the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
I could say that. I mean, a lot. I mean, internally, I accepted it, but again, I I had to withdraw and hide that side of myself. So
Hmm.
again, I couldn't express it. But
Hmm.
I at least not the way I wanted to. um, but I don't know. The whole thing just overwhelms me really and truly. All I can say right now is um, it's my business, and
Yeah.
so it's like to see people get worked up over my own personal life. I was like, why?
Yeah. How
It's
does
my
it
business.
impact
Like,
them?
how am I troubling you? It was like, gosh, and even if I'm not, there's still some people who um, they still want to pick trouble with you
Yeah.
um, because of their suspicions, etc. And they make it their business to then make you uncomfortable because
Hmm.
they're now digging up and pushing and doing research. And it's like, why? Why?
Yeah.
Why? You want to have a conversation? Come talk to me. Um,
Right.
why all this unnecessary thing? But that leads me to believe though that people are that I mean those people that take that sort of interest, they might be actually struggling with their identities, sexualities as well,
Mm.
and seeing something so open in the front of them, it then triggers something in them to want to learn
Mm.
more. But that's a different thing. I have my
Yeah,
theories, but
and I mean, it's
hmm
interesting that you say that, King,
hmm
because there is a bit of research actually to demonstrate that a lot of people who are extremely homophobic, it is because they
hmm
themselves have questioned their own sexuality or struggling with that question and need to come to terms with accepting it. So I
I
guess they
believe it.
think that if they put up this front of being anti this, then
hmm
people will never get suspicious about them, perhaps. So it's kind of like, I don't know if it was Shakespeare that said it, I think he may have said it, that thou does protest too much. So sometimes when you're
Ah,
protesting too much, it's like, why are you protesting so much? Why are you
I
trying to
have
prove such
yeah,
a point?
yes.
And I think there's some merit to that. because at some point, it does beg the question. Now, I want to say, and I cannot recall the exact name. I'll have to look this up here in a second. And I don't want to mistakenly say that this was Katina's son, who everybody knows is in prison for, I think, at least one or multiple murders. There was a murder in West Bay, and this goes along the same theme of people trying to pretend to be something perhaps that they're not. But there was a murder in West Bay some years ago of a banker by the name of, oh gosh, I can't remember his name now. I'll have to look this up.
Okay.
But he was killed in West Bay, and he was burnt in his car. Yes.
Oh God.
Anglin given 35 years for murder of Swiss banker Frederick Bies. Chad Anglin. Now, you're from West Bay, King, so you might have to remind me. I don't think Chad is her son, but he would be related to her. So her son is.
I'm not sure myself anymore.
Yeah, so I don't think
sure
Chad is her son, but it might be like a cousin but there was two of them that actually were involved in this murder in 2008 of a Swiss banker. And he was brutally killed. It made the AP news back in 2013. There was a news about it. It made the Financial Times news. I mean, this put us here in the Cayman Islands on the map. And
I remember the rumors around that. So I do remember the rumors around that story. About what led it to happen.
At the time, according to this, said that they were not releasing their motives for the murder. But what we eventually found out when the matter came to court was that, quite ironically enough, Mr. Frederick, who I had met with some of the LGBT community, so someone has just corrected me, saying that would actually be her nephew, so her sister's son. So both her son and her nephew are serving long sentences for murder. So, but none of those topics matter, believe me. So, the irony of this situation is that this man, Mr. Chad, and I don't want to get into too much of the gruesome details, but this is part of the truth, right? So there was some arguments put forward that this man actually lost his life because of who he was, because he was a member of the LGBTQ community.
That was a hate crime.
Yes, and it was a hate crime. So let us call it what it is. So there was a Leonard Ebanks who was also convicted of assisting Anglin with disposing of the body. And what they actually did was they burnt this man's body. I mean, that's got to be one of the most disrespectful ways to handle a human body.
Absolutely.
And despite the fact that, the police did not prosecute it as a hate crime. I don't even know if we have proper hate crime legislation in this country. What we do know is that Anglin met him at the West Bay jerk stand and went home with him. And then at some point, they went to another location where he was beaten to death. And then he was later found in the trunk of his own car, blazing in the driveway of his home. Now, folks, I don't know how else to say this to you. But we do know, like I said, that Frederick was a member of the LGBT community. And in the evidence provided in court, we also know that Anglin had sex with Frederick. That's all I can tell you. There was semen found in the body cavity. Okay? So again, people talking about, oh, they're anti-gay, they're anti-this. Are you really? Did you really have to take this man's life because he was a member of the LGBT community? But yet you were able, interested, I mean, whatever, he never spoke about it, but you
Mhm.
actually, this is proven beyond reasonable doubt, had sexual intercourse with this man. And it wasn't that he had sex with you, it was the other way around. So you can't say, well, he raped me or something of that sort. So what did you do?
Mhm.
Did you sexually assault him? Was it consensual? And then you got upset afterwards and decided to take this man's life? So this is
Ooh.
what I
Mhm.
talk about, the fact that people are duplicitous and they have very short term memories and they are dishonest.
Mhm.
This is part of what I am speaking about. This is the tragedy of what is happening in this
Mhm.
country, all under the guise of Christianity, which is
Oh yeah.
absolutely. King, before we bring in Noel into the conversation,
Mhm.
Johan says, I don't know you from one man, but from one man to another, live your life, bro, out loud and with purpose. You are an amazing talent and owe no one an explanation for your choices in life. The same logic and ability to live life on your own terms also applies to heterosexuals, etc. Hashtag judge not. Thank you so much, Johan, for that
Thank you.
positive affirmation. How
Thank
has
you,
your life
Johan.
changed in like real terms just having moved overseas? And you are but one of, oh my gosh, I could go through an entire list of Caymanians that I know, talented Caymanians, young professionals that have left the Cayman Islands, and a large part of that decision has been because they are members of the LGBT community and no longer wanting to face that, as you said, the option of being silent, not being able to live who they are, not being able to vocalize who they are, being forced to live like a prisoner, really, in your own country. There's a long list of them who have left this jurisdiction. I think there has been a drain of talent. You are a
Mhm.
musician. You have a dual major in what is it, biology and something else,
Oh yeah,
education,
I've got the letters behind my name.
a master's
I did
degree.
a master's. Yeah, I did have a master's in research. I am a professional singer. I teach. I'm a qualified certified life coach. I call myself a healer now as well. But part of why I moved here is, well, for one, Cayman, it was too heavy on me. I was severely depressed and overly anxious. Um, and I didn't even understand what those words meant until I had just a major crash. And
Mhm.
I'm sure you remember this because actually you were key in helping me get some of the help I needed. That one
Mhm.
day you called the hospital for me,
Yes.
and when I went in, I went to try and get some psychiatric help as well because it was really just I had such a dramatic change of pace, and then like I don't know, I couldn't handle life at the moment anymore, and
Yeah.
I couldn't even get the help I needed there. In fact,
Mhm.
when I left my second psych evaluation, um, I left worse than when I went in there because well, there was a lot of judgment, and
Wow.
the way it was handled just
And
it
this
didn't
is the
it was
so-called
mm,
this is the so-called professionals.
yeah. Yes.
Wow.
That aside, I came here and I got the help I needed. And I mean,
Mhm.
long story short, they a lot of that, all of that depression and anxiety and emotional
Mhm.
hurt and trauma. I mean, all of it was tied to me sort of um, suppressing my life
Mhm.
and denying myself my own happiness. And
Right.
I was trying to make up for it by staying completely busy because I don't know if you remember, but like at one point I was everywhere.
Yeah.
I was everywhere doing everything at
Right.
the same time, even ran my own business and
Yeah.
then help other people with theirs at the same time. And it left me virtually no time to be home for myself. And
Yeah.
that's how I sort of kept going, just keeping busy. Uh, just it wasn't working anymore. But since being here, gotten a lot of help. It's answered a lot of questions. Sorry, the services I received there answered a lot of
Mhm.
questions, a lot of reassurances, and I'm still on my journey. But
Mhm.
I've come such a long way. I mean, even now it's gotten to the point where now I am working here, um,
Mhm.
as I work with a company called Black Beetle Health, and I'm the
Mhm.
coordinator and project manager there, and I also deliver sexual health courses to
Mhm.
Black LGBT, well, specifically Black LGBT members of, Black members of the LGBT community, and
Right.
even that, like, in doing this, I'm learning so
Mhm.
much more about myself, and I'm expanding my knowledge on other people's experiences in
Mhm.
the well, the long acronym that keeps adding.
Mhm.
But it's just, it made me realize just so much, because
Mhm.
a lot of all the suffering that's happening on that island as well comes
Mhm.
from the fear of just being who you are, and
Right.
sometimes the inability to be who you are,
Right.
and so
And the
that
rejection
right
that
there
comes
just
with
takes
that.
away your chance at happiness. hmm
Yeah. I
Especially when you
mean,
see everyone else getting the stuff that you assume is
yes.
normal around you, and you don't get it. You don't get a chance at that. You don't get a
Wow.
chance to hold hands and walk around with someone that you care for and that sort of thing. You don't get that. You get
Mhm.
to be the third wheel when they pick you up and go to PDs, and you sit on the other side of the bench while the two. Oh, you get to do that. But
Right. And
but anyhow,
watch other people be happy.
exactly. And I I'm at that point now where I'm like, okay, I need to make me happy. So
Wow.
that's what I've been doing.
And
Yeah.
let me just address something there that King has said, because I think it's a valid point. You know, I have had the opportunity in my lifetime to see people struggle with this issue. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I am so incredibly passionate about it. When I was in university, and I grew up just like everybody else in the Cayman Islands in a very strict Christian environment. The only place I was allowed to go was church. So trust me, that was like my, like, woohoo, let's go to church. It's Sunday. Let's go to Sunday school. Let's go to church, you know? And so that was how you grew up, and you grew up with very strict moral guidelines: no premarital sex, no this, no that, and all these things, right? And then when I went to university, my eyes were open to all sorts of things. And I saw people from different religious backgrounds who they were not Christians and they had a different belief system than me. And I've always been a curious individual. So sometimes, I think it's important for us to step back and not be so willing to judge people, and instead just listen to them and hear what they have to say. And when I was in university, I was in a position, eventually, I was hired as what's called a resident assistant. So I had a dorm floor, part of the floor with my other partner that we worked with. I was responsible for part of the floor and he had the other part. And we were on the international floor, which is floor number 13. And I had a lot of, like, I had the guy next door for me from United Arab Emirates. His, father was a minister of religion in his country. I had people from France who were there doing a year of international studies. Like, it was just a very mixed group of individuals. At the time I dated someone from Sri Lanka. So I've always tried to open myself up to other
hmm
people from all walks of life. And I'll remember there was a young man by the name of George. And I don't know why George took to me. He was from Melbourne, Florida. And we used to spend a lot of time together. So if we wanted to go to the mall and just like walk around or whatever, George was like my go-to person. He's like, come on, let's go walk, let's go do this. And he was also a student pilot. So a lot of times, my first experience in just a little Cessna plane was with George as the pilot, and he'd be like, "I need to go get in my flight hours. Will you come with me?" And I'm like, "Sure." I should have probably been afraid to fly with a student pilot now that I think about it, but whatever. You're young and a little bit more adventurous. And so
hmm
one day, George and I were driving somewhere, and he makes this. It was just kind of out of nowhere, this proclamation that he is a member of the LGBT community, that he's gay. And as he was actually driving, because George had a car, and as he's driving and telling me this, he runs through a red light and almost gets us killed. And so I immediately said to him, very jokingly, but also very serious, I'm like, George, that's not the kind of secret that you got to kill me over. Like,
Oh,
seriously, just be
ooh.
who you are, you
Mm-mm.
know? And so I have always had a sense of let people live their lives and be
Mhm.
who they are, you know? And honestly, if you are not out there hurting other people, what's the problem? What's the issue?
That's
If
right.
you're an
That's
adult
right.
or even
Mhm.
a teenager and you want to date other members of the LGBT community, everybody
Mhm.
else is free to date and to have this
Mhm.
normalcy about them. And I think it's
That's
a
right.
real sad indictment on us as a people that we lose people like King. And King, I knew that you were struggling with your identity on so many levels, even as you transitioned and changed your name. It was like you were becoming, you're like the caterpillar that was shedding, into something else, into something more beautiful. And
Oh,
you were
I've bloomed.
trying to just, um, yes, and you were trying to shed all aspects of your previous identity, which was only holding you down, keeping you in depression. And, people look at you and they're hearing you speak and they still don't know your journey.
Mhm.
King was literally, and I hope, King, that I'm not, putting too much of your business out there, but you talked about
Go
the
ahead.
mental health struggles. King was literally on the verge of taking his own life, and he was
I
struggling
was.
with issues because of this. And I'm sure this
I really
was,
was.
although you
Mhm.
did not speak on this directly, this was a
Mhm.
large part of that. And
It
so
was.
I
It
was
definitely was.
I was desperate. I remember King saying to me, I don't want to live.
Oh
And
God, yeah, you brought it up again.
it get me a little bit upset here because
Yeah. Sorry. I remember it because I can't forget that day. I called Sandy and I just said, did I call or did I text you? I think I voice noted,
I think it
but
might have been a WhatsApp text. But it
yeah,
was just
and
like, I need help. I no longer
yeah,
want to live.
it was bad. And that same day, I still got up though. And I went into work, and I was just silent at work
Yeah.
because the worst things were running through my head about what would happen after I left. And that's
Yeah.
when you called and said, "Go straight to the hospital." You already made the call, and I did. And honestly,
The
they kept
only
me in
thing in
there for
my
about six
mind, King,
hours, and that's what saved my life that day. I would say. Um,
the only thing I could think
mhm,
of is I
mhm,
always say, and we've all been through things in our lives. We've all had moments of
mhm,
like depression and different things. The only thing I could think in that moment is I know that every single person who's ever taken their life, I believe if they
mhm.
had one more second, 5 more seconds to think about it, they may have made a different decision. And King is such
I
an
I believe that
amazingly,
strongly.
yeah, King is such an amazingly talented young man, kind-hearted, that when he reached out to me and said that he's thinking that way, listen, everything stopped. I dropped, I don't even know what I was doing, but whatever I was doing, there was nothing in this world in that moment that was more important than getting King the help that he needed. So I dropped
Thank
everything
you.
and I started calling professionals,
Mhm.
doctor friends, what should we do? I reached out to the top of the HSA because I wasn't going through just any and everybody. I needed to make
Yeah.
sure that we could just keep you alive for another day and another day
I
and another day,
mhm. I thank her too. I
until we
forget her name. I forget her name, but they had the lady that called. I
Miss
forgot her name, but
Lizette.
thank you,
Yeah, Miss
Lizette.
Lizette.
Thank you so much, Miss Lizette.
Yes.
Wow, she called personally and she said, "Listen, go straight in. The nurse is waiting."
Yeah.
It's like I'm like okay, and it made me feel safe. The way they handled it, I must give them props for that. It made me feel really safe. The nurse was very understanding, It was an American lady though, but very understanding, and you know, they of course they put me on the watch, but that in itself, I mean, I had 6 hours to bring bring myself back, and
Right.
so that gave me another chance to keep going for a bit longer.
Yeah.
And I'm glad because look now.
Exactly, exactly. And you know what is so interesting, King? I was just as we were kind of reminiscing about how this transpired.
Mhm,
When I was in the BRAC the other day, I went there a week ago. I had a person who works for government stop me and said, because I'd gone to court and I was watching the court proceedings. They're like, okay, I don't know you and you don't know me, but I know you in the sense that there was a young lady there who again was in a very desperate situation like that, but she was suffering from postpartum depression and on the verge of doing something as well. And they're like, you were all the way in Grand Cayman and you got help for her because they had to get her off of the island so that she could come here to see the professionals. And they were like, thank you for that. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like I had totally even forgotten about it. And it's so weird
mhm,
how our memories can kind of move past something. And that's why I always say to people who are struggling with whether it's this issue or something else, like give yourself time. This too shall pass. And you just have to hold in life, nothing is permanent. And if you understand that nothing is permanent, including your suffering and your depression and the place where you're at right now, and you believe and you understand that things do get better, they can get better, even if it means moving halfway around the world like King has done. Do what you got to do to live your
mhm.
best life. So I'm
Absolutely.
so glad that we got through that together.
Yes.
um, but, for me, this is part of why I'm passionate because I know someone like a Katina. And again, I'm not trying to make fun of her and her journey and whatever, but how many people have she had the opportunity to sit down with and really hear their struggles and try to understand them from the supposed Christian heart that you have? How can you speak out against someone like King, who's never done anything wrong in his life, who's never broken any laws? He hasn't killed anybody, he hasn't robbed anybody, he hasn't done any of those things. He is just trying to be him. How can you deny him the legal right to be who he is and to just be left
Mhm,
alone and to not be judged by the likes of you, who honestly shouldn't be in a position to judge anybody? You should be the most accepting person in the world. When you are
yeah.
flawed, as we all are, but then there's some people who are flawed beyond the average person, you think that they would be more understanding of the struggles of others. And yet,
Mhm,
sometimes those are the persons who are like the biggest judges and the biggest hypocrites. And, it's just, to me, it's just shocking and unbelievable. But King, I want to thank you so much. We're going to bring Noel into the conversation. So I do want you to stay
mhm.
with us. But I want to
Oh,
thank
sure,
you
definitely.
for that day reaching out to me. I don't think I've ever said it, but I'm glad you reached out to me. And I'm so glad that you are still here with us.
Thank
You
you.
are an amazing person. You have an amazing soul. And you have so
Thank
much
you.
talent that I can't imagine the world without you.
Oh, jeez. Like,
So I'm just glad that
wow. An emotional Monday now, but thank you.
I'm just glad that you're here. And I'm glad
Thank
you
you.
were able to get through it. We were able to get through it. And I think there's some discussions at some point that need to be had about the support system that's available here in this community. As you said, the professional help, they got you through that initial period, but maybe it could have been better. And there could have been people who were trained to deal with members of the LGBT community. So, on that note, let us bring in Noel into the conversation
Yes.
because Noel has founded the Cayman Islands LGBTQ Foundation. And one of the things that Noel is going to be working on is trying to bring some awareness to this topic as well as offer support services for members of that community. So Kamar says, God made us all. I have nothing against him. One life, live it the way you want. And he says also that you're free now. Good morning, Alice. Debbie says, when you live in a bubble, you don't get exposed to the real world and you remain ignorant. Kamark also says, love is love. Let them be what they want. Let them be what they want to do. I want to be, I guess is what I meant to say there. Karen says, you go where you're allowed to spread your wings. And Louis also joined in. And he says that Rastas feel a similar oppression because it was felt that it wasn't Christian to grow your hair and to smoke. The outside of the pot appears clean, gives the illusion that the inside is clean as well. More conversation on the restrictions that are in place to jail people without going to Northwood Prison. So slightly different conversation there, but thank you for that. So he's talking about the issue of dreadlocks. And Irving wants to know if you and Noel are brothers. No, they're not brothers. No, they're not brothers.
We might be related distantly, but not brothers.
Everybody in Cayman is related somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Deborah says, I'm in tears just listening to this young man. I can only see a human being through the eyes of love, and I'm happy that you're free from depression and anxiety because I know what it's like to be depressed and anxious. I consider myself a Christian, but the stigma surrounding mental health issues in our Caribbean region needs to stop, get to the root of the matter, and the cure will happen as it did for King. Peace, love, and respect to all human beings. So I think at the end of the day, Deborah, thank you for those comments. For King, part of his struggle was the inability to simply be who he is. And you can only hide who you are for so long. Michael LeMay, thank you so much. He's joined in. He says, thanks, King, for being there for me and my band. So on this topic of, and Noel can certainly share some of his experiences in this regard, but on this topic of hiding who you are, I'm a firm believer that that is a cover that you cannot maintain forever. No. And in fact, this is why when I talk about, people trying to live an honest, genuine life, and I look at members of our legislative assembly who are in there, who we know are child molesters, who we know themselves, some of them are bisexual or gay or whatever, and they're just trying to pretend to be something that they're not. But yet, after they've had a few drinks, right, they're trying to make a move on another guy. And these stories, leak out, and people go, well, how can this person who is preaching against the LGBT community, voting against a domestic or civil partnership bill, then go on like this and they, oh, well, it was the alcohol. No, it wasn't the alcohol. It is who you are. But you are unable, you are struggling perhaps your entire lives, just like King has struggled, just like Noel has struggled, just like so many others of the LGBT community have struggled, to have some level of self-acceptance. Because you grew up in an era and a time when you couldn't be who you are. And so you've got to be in church every time the church door opens. And you've got to be doing the most, pretending to be this person that you're not. So you felt compelled and obligated to get married and to have children and to do all of these things. And you still can't be who you are. And when you have a couple of drinks for just a second, you become somebody else. Noel, talk to us about this freedom of coming to the realization. You're a little bit older than King. You've had a little bit more experience. Like King, you moved overseas. You've been through that journey of discovery. What is it like to truly be free, to be able to say, mine? It's like you always hear in AA meetings, people say the first rule on the road to recovery as an alcoholic or drug addict or whatever, is to simply say your name and say, my name is Sandy Hale, I'm an alcoholic. It's almost the same thing for members of the LGBT community. My name is Noel Cayasso, and I am a gay man. How did your journey go, and how does it feel now that you're at that place in your journey where you don't care anymore what people think?
King, hi, how are you?
Hi,
I just want to say, first of all, thanks to Chantel Day and Vicky Barton for setting precedent for where we're at today in the Cayman Islands. Also, Sandy, thank you for bringing us on your show to discuss, such heated matters at the moment. But growing up in the Cayman Islands as a gay person has many challenges. I have been through this many years. Like you said, I'm older than King. I've done exactly the same thing that he has now done. And it was not easy. There's a lot of peer pressure, not only from the community, but from your family, because they don't know your sexuality. So obviously you're going to get the pressures from that side saying, when you're going to get a girlfriend, when you're going to get married, all these different things on that aspect. And then on the next side, the community is there judging you, and you're scared for anyone to find out who you are because you don't want to be stereotyped or discriminated against. And it leads you to a lot of depression. And like King, I went through major depressions, and these are things that some things I haven't even sat and discussed with my parents, my family and stuff, because I was on the urge of just ending it myself as well, because I felt that it was easier just to take myself out of the equation for everybody else to get on and live their life. And no one should have to live like that. It had gotten so bad that at work I broke down one day and I was just crying, and everybody was trying to figure out what happened. And even at that stage, you're still embarrassed and you're still upset and you're still depressed because you feel you got to talk about it to someone, but who do you trust with this information? Because at that time, you still don't want to out yourself as being an outright member of the LGBTQ community. Sent me home, and I remember my mom helper calling her until I was there and I was upset and stuff. And she came home and she kept pressing me, asking me, what's the problem? And I just couldn't tell her. I just said, I just don't want to talk about it. And you go out and you see people in the community doing their thing, couples enjoying themselves, your family members, sisters, brothers, got in relationships, having their kids, and there you are thinking, what in the hell am I doing? I am living their lives, not mine. I am basically hiding who I am, my happiness, to ensure that they're going to be happy. They're living their lives, they're enjoying themselves, and I'm here depressed and struggling every day in my life. And it's not a good feeling, It came to the point where I just had enough of it, and I thought to myself, you know what? If I don't leave this place, I'm going to just be self-destruct. And I just packed my stuff and I left, and I went to the UK. When I left home to the UK and I realized how accepting people were there and no one cared what you do, who you were with, it was like, I can't explain it. It was like the world lifted off your shoulders. You didn't have to hide there anymore. Although your friends and family did not know what your sexuality was back home, but at least you had that distance between you that you can live your life and do what you wanted to do. I remember when I went out into the community and I started to go to the clubs and stuff, and I see how people react and stuff. And I think to myself, oh my God, why couldn't I live like this in my own country? Why did I have to pack everything I owned and head off somewhere away from where I live to live my life? What is going on here? Why are people so judgmental? And what am I taking away from anyone if I come out to say that I'm gay? I never get it, And honestly, Sandy, I lived in the UK for 13 years. I never came home one day in that 13 years. Every time my mom wanted to see me or anybody, I would either meet them in Miami, or they used to fly up every August for a couple of weeks and hang out with me. And it got to the stage where I thought, you know what, this is stupid. It is time for me to tell my parents what I am. And I did. And as you know, life isn't all a bed of roses. And I took a gamble by doing that. And I think what made me such a strong person today that I can sit here and fight for what I believe in is the support of my family. Because they don't have a problem with what I am. I don't break any laws. I've never gone to jail. I work here. I do what I have to do. and to survive. So after Ivan, my mom's house got damaged, my place got damaged, and I thought, I gotta come home because there was things to be done. And I was saying to myself, after living so many years free, not stressed, not depressed, do I really want to return back home and put myself in the situation that I was in? But at that point, I had no choice. So I came home. And it was like stepping back into a black hole or a time hole, whatever you want to call it, because nothing had changed in the 13 years that I had left here. It was like coming right back to where we were, So I came back. I stayed, I think it was 3 weeks. And then, Sandy, I'm just checking if I can hear you because I can't hear anything from your king. It's like,
sorry. Oh, sorry. I think we had muted. Yeah, we had muted your mic because we were listening so intently to you.
So,
yeah,
it's been, even today, it's a struggle here. Even this morning, I went to wish my mom happy birthday because today's her birthday. And the first thing she said,
"Oh my gosh, tell her I said happy
called her and told her how I am out there campaigning for gay people and this and that and the next thing." Of course, my mom, everybody knows my mom has her Christian values and stuff. But she's never once made me feel uncomfortable about who I am. I respect her boundaries and she respects mine. And I said to her, "Mom, when people call you with this foolishness, give them my number and tell them to call me," which we're gonna do. Do accommodate this. The whole fact remains, Sandy, is that for the years that I suffered hiding who I were, I don't want anyone else to have to go through that.
Right.
It is not a good feeling. Too many of our young Caymanians are leaving our island to go overseas to live their lives, and they should not have to.
Yeah.
It took me a while to decide what I wanted to do or how I could pretty much assist and help. We have done many things since I've been back. I remember when we first did, because everybody knows the Cayman Foundation is a thing I'm involved with. Even this morning, again, they were saying that, I've merged the two companies together. There is nothing, such a thing does not go so. They're two different entities, but people can't see beyond what we're trying to do. It's like, oh yeah, you're gay. So if I work for Sandy on Mile Road, Sandy must be a lesbian because she got me there.
Yeah. And listen, that has been, I must say that quite interestingly and ironically enough, that has been one of the accusations against me, apparently, because the only way, I guess, in the minds of people for me to be as supportive and as vocal for the LGBT community as I am is that I have to be a member of that community. That's the logic that people use. And you know what is so ironic, Noel? I have a lot of LGBTQ acquaintances and friends over the years. And, there was a time when every Friday I would go and sit down with them for happy hour. I don't personally drink, but, they would have a few drinks and I would have a Coke or whatever and enjoy conversation. And it was interesting to get an insight, especially in this island, into their lives. They tend to be, a very small knit community. They're not necessarily hanging out. Like even when they go clubbing, they feel like they have to go together in almost like a protective group with people that they know and trust because they don't know when they could become a victim of a hate crime. And, I always said that here in the Cayman Islands, we want to believe that that could never happen here. And then look at the 2008 murder of Frederick. And Frederick is one of those people that would stop by for the happy hour at Rathens and join that group. And that's how I met him. And, he always seemed like a really nice guy. And I think we might have played tennis like once or twice, but I was so shocked when I'd heard what had happened to him. And the fact that the police would not even call it a hate crime, knowing that that's exactly what it was. speaks to how far we have to go in this community. But when you were just saying that example there, Noel, it reminded me of even within the LGBT community, they questioned me at the time about why are you here? So I had one of them said to me, one of the girls, actually, different occasions, one guy and a girl, are you sure you're not gay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. I am more than comfortable in my sexuality, in who I am and whatever, but that doesn't mean I can't be here and I can't socialize with you guys. But it was just kind of thinking like, okay, no one really is in our core circle, hangs out with us or goes out with us unless they are part of the LGBT community. And so for them, it was even weird to imagine a totally straight person being there every Friday, hanging out with them. You know, they were like, this is strange. And then I had another guy, I remember Eddie, I know he won't care if I call his name. One day we were driving, I think we were going to the movies or something. And Eddie's like, are you sure you're not a lesbian or bisexual? And I'm like, yes, Eddie, I'm sure. So, but I think it's because it's so unusual. You know, there are people who are like, yeah, you know, let them do what they want, I'll support them. But those people are never going to sit down and break bread with members of the LGBT community.
I mean,
well, the term we call that is an ally, and I guess they just weren't familiar with the term ally because that's what we call people that advocate on behalf of our community. That aren't necessarily
another term. We can nominate Sandra as our fag hike or LGBT fag hike.
What is it called?
God.
Use when you got straight friends and straight women or girls that hang out with a lot of gay people. They call them fag hikes. Is a terminology they use, which is, you know, you're part of our clique, but you're not.
Okay, I've never heard that one.
But you know,
that one's new.
Sandy, is that people see us here, people see me here, and people don't know what I go through. As you know for a fact, I'm here fighting with the Minister of Health at the moment because of our grant and stuff, and the foolishness that's going on because of this bill. Emails sent out, they don't respond, they don't care because they're upset. But if our government don't show respect to the LGBT community, why should anyone else out there do this?
Exactly. And this is the point I think that the governor is trying to make, or the FCO is trying to make, is that, listen, the courts have said, they've given you a directive to do something. So if we sit back and we allow you to ignore a directive of the court, what would stop any other person from out there? Yeah, the court told me to do something, but I'm not going to do it. The government doesn't do it when the court instructs them to do something. So if the government can set an example as the highest, you know, body in the land, so to speak, then why can't the rest of us just ignore directives from the court and do as we wish?
I mean, I for me, at this stage in my life, I'm 52 this year, and I have walked the walk, so to say. And it took me a while to get to where I am. Now I'll walk down the street, I'll hold my head high. I don't care who knows. It doesn't bother me anymore. I know who I am. I'm comfortable with my sexuality and other people's opinion of what they think I am. If you remember, we posted something on your site, and I think it was Linda Lou Welcome, that told me to take my nasty self and my nastiness back to the UK, which it goes back to everybody thinks that it's the expats that are, you know, bringing this in for us to do. And it's crazy because for a while, no Caymanian would have stood up and did what Chantel and Vicky did, you know.
That's
and
right.
Now that this is happening, like you said, it shed a whole new light on what's going on. The thing that annoyed me the most too is, and I have nothing against no one coming here to work, don't get me wrong. I'm not that kind of person. But we are considered second-class citizens in our own country. When I'm involved with someone that lives overseas and that person has visited me here, they get 30 days. After 30 days, I need to go to immigration and pay for an extension.
Right.
If immigration decides, well, they've been here 30 days, I think that's enough time for you guys, they have to go. There is nothing I can do about it. Yet, our government will allow persons to come in and be added to person's work permit. We don't get that privilege because we don't need a work permit to work here. So when we're asking for these rights that we're asking for to be able to be treated the same way as anybody else that's coming in here, I don't see what the problem is. And for Katrina to sit there and talk about she's speaking for the Cayman people, she doesn't speak for me. She don't speak for me, because if she were speaking for me, she wouldn't be acting the way she is. And I keep asking people this question. Me being a gay man and a part of Cayman society, what am I taking away from any heterosexual person out there? What I choose to do with my life doesn't affect anyone unless I'm breaking a law. And being a homosexual in the Cayman Islands is not illegal.
Right.
So what is the issue? So, we thought about it and we thought about it. I said, you know what? I observed what was happening around me. I go out and I see the struggles that people are having. We have events where, right now, gay events are happening, and it's like you can't disclose the location until the day of the event because people are scared. And no one should have to live like that. I'm sure when people want to go to the nightclubs or whatever, we all know where the clubs are. We know exactly what to do. So I decided, you know what? We need to put some structure in place that we can help people. So I decided, you know what? Let me just try to see if I can register a Cayman LGBTQ Foundation to see if we have any resistance. Surprisingly, we didn't. Mr. Ben Turner and his crew, I want to thank them very much because they did 90% of the work pro bono. We paid for the fees and whatever else had you, and they are a registered office.
Okay.
What we are trying to do here, Sandy, is put this particular organization in place, this nonprofit organization in place. So the things that King went through and had no outlet to reach out to, thank God you were there to assist him. But what if you weren't? We need something in place where people are comfortable that if they're going through depression or whatever it may be, family matters, that the foundation will be there to assist them. And King is on board with us here. Just want to let everyone know that he's a part of the organization. At the moment, he's handling our PR, among other things in the background.
Yeah. Everything you see on social media, that's me.
Sometimes when I blow my top, he messaged me the other day and he said to me, "No, I'm going to go look at this video to see if anything we have to do damage control."
Yeah. I keep him in check.
But we want to build this that people can feel comfortable to come to us for anything. Right now, the company been up and going. I've been registered as a nonprofit since the 20th of April this year. As you know, we're having our first fundraiser to put an office in place and get ourselves situated. Which we did send you the information. You're gonna put that up for us at some point.
Yes.
Because we need to raise funds in order to do this.
Yes.
I just want people to realize that we are all God's children. No one should have to live in the condition you do. And I asked, in a video I did the other day, I said to someone, I said, what if your child sat you down today and said to you, "Mom and Dad, I am gay"? What are you going to do? Curse them everything under the sun? Pack their clothes and throw it through the doors and say you're not my child?
And unfortunately, Noel, there are people in our community who have had that happen to them.
Yes.
I'm even thinking of a family member. He's living his most fabulous gay life, but his mom is one of those people that every opportunity, she's the one who's sending out these petitions and promoting this thing and talking about how disgusting people are in the LGBT community. And I'm thinking, you have a son who is a member of that community. So there are people who are not, their love of their child is so insignificant compared to their hate of an entire group of people, which is a sad indictment on them, because I cannot imagine being in that position. I cannot imagine having a child that comes to me and says, "This is who I am." And as a parent, I can't accept you for who you are. To me, that is just shocking and says more about their parenting and their ability to love someone unconditionally.
Well, as much as Juliana O'Connor Connolly don't want to admit it. There are kids that are struggling in our high schools with their sexuality. Yet again, they have to bury that. It affects their learning ability because of this. They need to have safe spaces where these kids can go in and discuss things such as what's going on at this point. They don't. I know because I've been there, Sandy. It is not an easy thing. And when you're depressed and when you're upset and have no outlet, it affects you.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's up in arms and majority MLAs, oh, we have to protect our children. We have to do this. We have to do that. But have they stopped and think about what they themselves are doing to their kids? We ain't doing anything to anyone, kids. It is a thing where Cayman's government need to step up to the plate and do the right thing.
Right.
Everybody is ridiculing the governor because he passed the bill and whatever have you. But at the same time, we had this bill in our hand to do the right thing, and we chose not to. And Section 81, what can we do? Nothing. All this petitioning and stuff that's going on is not going to help.
Yeah.
And when I look
and you know what I thought, you know, this Katina was given a legal aid. She received legal aid. And there's so many people who have criminal cases who are denied legal aid. Other matters are denied legal aid. She's asking people to donate $4,000 so that she can pay her contribution. I want to challenge those people to donate $4,000 to something meaningful, like, you know, the mental health organizations in this country, the Alex Panton Foundation, who's doing a lot of work to help young people who are suffering from mental health issues, suffering from depression, bipolarism, and other types of things. Feed Our Children organizations. You know, there's so many people. This is right in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic. There are people, including children and adults and elderly people, who are going to bed or at night hungry, who are waking up hungry, and who don't even know where their next meal is going to come from. And this is in a community that is supposed to be so quote unquote wealthy. We have homeless people. Someone sent me a photo of a man the other day who sleeps out in an open space in Georgetown. We have homeless people sleeping on the streets of this country. And I have never heard Katina said, oh, I need to raise $4,000 to help any of those people. And that's what I would like to challenge those individuals, challenge the churches, challenge the so-called Christian people to do the Christian thing and address some of these social ills that are plaguing us as a community. That's where we can all make a difference.
I mean, we're as King can contest to this, we consider ourselves want to be considered as a community-based foundation. We want to do more for our community. We just don't pick up the phone and says, oh, hi, do you offer counseling? Can we add you to our website as part of the support group? We don't. We have procedures that we follow. I mean, King drafts a lot of that say to we go there and we question them. We have meetings with them. We want to find out, do you have any LGBTQ persons working for you? What is your outtake on you know, our community? Because
we're
to you, we want to make sure that you don't leave there feeling worse than you went. When it comes to going out in the community to restaurants and bars and stuff, we're not going to just say, well, can we put a sticker up saying that you're gay friendly? No, we want to know if your staff is okay with gay people. We want to know if you're okay with gay people. We even offer a half an hour sit down with yourself and your staff to answer any questions and stuff they may have before we tick you off as being safe. Even the security companies that are working in these places, I want to know if anything should occur that the security officers are not going to say, oh, well, they're gay, let them kick the crap out of them. Because that's not what it's about.
Yep.
Everyone should feel safe, have the right to go out in public. So we've put things in place to definitely make sure that the companies we're recruiting and we're labeling friendly, we're making sure that at each level that they are open to supporting or serving the LGBT community, just as you would any other customer. So it's not about making a spectacle. You see someone walk in or you see Noel coming in, so you have to lay out a red card. No, it's just about we're humans too. It's like different about it is, we choose to have sex, or we have a different sort of um, sexual preference than you might have. I mean, what other difference is there than that?
Right.
We still want to come here and eat your wings or whatever it is,
Yeah.
On top of that, we're hoping to actually create a physical safe space, safe meeting spaces,
Mm-hmm.
dry spaces as well, because not everything needs to be about alcohol. Very inclusive services that we're trying to promote, not just one-off counseling, but we would like to have a really good counselor or mental health practitioner that is constantly there, within access to LGBT members in the community.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you get the one-off conversation and it's just like, that's it. It's like, no, we need someone that, we need regular access. We
Ongoing
need sexual
dialogue.
health. Yes, we need sexual health access as well, because um, being in the LGBT community, you're living like a shadow life sometimes when you're in the sort of community environment that you're in Cayman. So you might deny yourself regular checkups that someone else might go. So
Mm-hmm.
you might be going with your sister to the doctor. She's going to go get a checkup or whatever. Why didn't you go get one? I mean, you were screeching around, but you don't want anybody to know you're screeching around.
Yeah.
So now
Right.
you're sitting there and your health is deteriorating, and
Mm-hmm.
you because you're scared to go and say, I had this kind of interaction, I need help, because of, there's cases of doctors not refusing to serve people. There's cases of when they even do offer service, they're judging them and using harsh language on like religious doctors and religious practices and that sort of thing, and it just
Mm-hmm.
deters them from even going about it. It's more like, okay, let me just go to the pharmacy and rub some cream on this, and then
Right.
more about you get more issues. So
Right.
we're just working on that community aspect of improving the quality of life and providing access to different things in Cayman. So that's what we're doing as the LGBT Foundation.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
It's a
You know,
long process.
over the weekend, someone sent me a message on WhatsApp about a certain person of prominence. They happen to be an expat, but they're working here for government. And they said, "Oh, did you know that so and so is gay?" And I said, "Well, I don't actually think that they hide it. As far as I know, they have a partner that they may even be married to overseas. They came here on a government contract. And yes, quite ironically, when they first arrived on island many years ago, probably over 7 years ago, I had the pleasure of sitting next to them on the plane, and we had a discussion. And right away, I could tell that this person's gay, and they talked about their partner moving with them to the Cayman Islands. And they're in a position where they're in the public eye all the time. And they're a very attractive looking person. So a lot of women are fawning over them, saying, "Oh, this person is so nice looking. And, can I get a date? Is this person married? Blah, blah, blah." And so I think for the person who's messaging me, she saw this individual out recently, and she's like, "Oh well," it just occurred to her that he might be gay, and I said, "Well, I don't think it's a secret. I'm sure that he is, and the Cayman Islands government can't discriminate against him." In giving him a job. He's qualified for the job, and they're more than happy to give him the opportunity to serve in that position. Now, what is so incredibly ironic about that is that as Caymanians, we are discriminated against because
Yeah.
of that and so many other things. So I said, yes, he is gay, and so what? What's the point? She's like, "Oh well, I just saw him out," and I'm like, "And?" I mean, I've seen him out having dinner with his partner and his dog before, and so what? I see other people out all the time having dinner.
Should
Is
there
there
be
something
times that
unusual that
do
happened?
something consistent?
I even said, "Were they partying? Like, what's the point of you asking me if I knew he was gay?" And she's like, "No, they were just having dinner." Okay. And the world has not stopped rotating yet because two gay people are out having dinner.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck?
Use that time to do something constructive instead of trying to figure out what people's life is about.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yes,
If
we do need
you're
volunteers.
sitting there having dinner and two gay people are having dinner, why are you using your energy to figure out who is
Right.
who?
Yeah. I thought the whole transaction was really peculiar. And I'm like, Yes, I know. And the point is, I was still missing why I was even being asked the question. So Michael's asking about volunteers, and King has said definitely volunteers are needed. So give us some contact information, guys, as we start to wrap up a little bit this morning on how people can contact the Cayman LGBTQ Foundation if they wish to volunteer.
Go ahead, King. Take it away.
Oh, I get tongue tied at the email bit, but okay. You can send your query to info@clgbtqf. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
clgbtqf.com. So that's info@clg. See what I told you? I warned you. C.
But
Well, you
as
have
in
a,
for
you, the
Cayman,
website.
lgbtqf.com.
What's the website address as well?
The website is www.clgbtqf.com.
Okay, so we'll put that up here. I just see that here. We'll put that
And
up
all
on
the
the
info is
screen.
there.
Alternatively, you can send us a private message on Facebook or Instagram, even Twitter, because I monitor those forms. So I will give you the correct information and direct you to the right place.
Plus, our applications to become a volunteer is also on our website. Our criteria and everything is there to become because we're trying to secure people that is going to bring something to the foundation, not just come and take a seat. We want to make this a successful thing where people will be able to utilize what we have to offer.
Right.
But before we go, Sandy, I just want to tell everyone, that we say our launch is the 26th of April. And it's at Central, it's at the Lucky Slice Bayshore Mall. Central, go ahead,
26th of September. It's the 26th of September. It's called Rainbow Cocktails. It's our first fundraiser, and we're raising funds to cover the cost of running the foundation, because at the moment it's completely self-funded. And that is Central Terrace, above Lucky Slice, as Nolly was saying, on September 26th. Doors open at, is it 6 p.m.?
6 o'clock.
And there's entertainment. 6 o'clock. And there's entertainment by DJ Alec.
Oh, nice.
You can purchase the tickets by just
very good.
Sending us information.
Okay, awesome. So I think you have a flyer that you're going to send me as well, Noel.
Yes, I'll do that right away so that we can you can get that up for us. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much for bringing me on this morning. I really appreciate it. King, there's a few things that I've learned today that I didn't really know your struggles to 100%, but thank you so much for sharing. It is great to know that I'm not the only one out there that can stand here or sit here this morning on Sandra's show and explain my dramatic, adventure that I went through. Now I don't feel like I'm alone. All right, I did this alone.
Yeah.
What we do is try and help other people not to go through what we did. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
That's right.
I know it's difficult, but thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. But thank you for having me on as well, Sandy.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I mean, when we have this discussion, it's always challenging, even within the community, to find people who are willing to come on and have this discussion, especially Caymanians. Like I said, they definitely are there, and some of them are living their lives and they're doing their thing. But to actually come and vocalize that and to share some of their personal struggles is not easy, because nobody wants to be judged. Yesterday I was watching a video, and this was unrelated to this topic. It was just like about photography and creating content and stuff. And that guy was saying that when he first started as a content creator, he was so obsessed with thinking about what other people wanted him to do. And the basic idea is you've got to live your own life, So even here on Cayman Road, we take our licks left, right, and center sometimes for the content that we cover and the things that we do. And people think, oh, you're going too far, you're doing the most or whatever. And at the end of the day, I don't need anybody's acceptance to do what I do. I don't need people's approval. I don't need their acceptance. There'll be people who love it and there'll be people who don't like it. And the beauty of this world is that everyone should have a choice.
Yes.
So you don't have to be compelled to watch anything that Cayman Road watches. And that choice extends to allowing other people to freely choose how to live their lives. And I'm a proponent of just being happy. Do what makes you happy. And as long as you're not hurting anyone, I find that it's really none of my business. It's as simple as
That's
that.
it.
So
Nobody's
I thank
business,
you guys
business.
so much. Yeah, I really thank you guys a lot for having the courage to come onto this program, because I know how much courage it takes. I know the flack that you may even get, for coming on here today. King is removed from it. So like I've always said to King, listen, toxic people in your life, that's what the block button is for. Block their butts big time.
Yeah.
Hit block,
Oh,
click,
yes.
you're done. So you can block them on WhatsApp, you can
Bloop.
block them from calling you can block them on social media. You don't have to entertain negativity in your life, and you don't have to entertain these people who have nothing better to do with their time than to try to fight against something that really is just a matter of basic human rights, right? The gay community is not asking for anything else in this country but equality. They just want to live their lives. And if they decide to do certain things with a will or health insurance policy, whatever, at the moment, they can't do any of those things. So having that legal basis on which that can be achieved is all that Chantel and her partner were asking for from the very beginning.
I don't know if you listened to Miss Mary Lawrence last week Thursday with Kenneth on Talk Cayman Talk.
No, unfortunately,
years ago, decades ago, gay people live among us. We didn't stop them from getting jobs. We didn't stop them from doing this or that. But she needs to remember that was a decade ago. Cayman has progressed so much since then. We're up there in the financial world. Laws change. Right now, you need so much paper.
Just out of curiosity, how does she know what you guys were suffering and what were you going through?
She have no idea.
I mean, if it was the case that the gay community here was so happy, 90% of them who moved overseas wouldn't be living overseas. I mean, let's just be honest.
Precisely. But, she's saying, why are we stepping up here asking for these rights now and, all these different things. But you say to put wills in place, secure your partner. None of these things were there to protect us because Cayman has progressed so far. Before we didn't have these headaches and problems. But now we have to dot the I's 3 times and cross all the T's numerous times to make sure we're protected. And with this new law, we feel that, we have that right now. So we can't, based on what happened 50 years ago,
right?
Bring it forward to today.
Now, Aliana has a very interesting comment here. So Aliana says the anti-homosexual issue is ingrained from something at tribal, not how we feel evolved as a society. It's here, it's everywhere. We gauge our perspective from a third world culture, which has shaped us intellectually, throwing up gun fingers and following a cult mindset. Yes, have your slice of dogmatic delusion, but judge your own shit about others. Trust me, I had my hate for homosexuals. Now I lean to more center. I think he meant to say in a messed up world. So it looks like Aliano is basically saying that he has had a shift in how he views the homosexual community and how he views, I guess some of the issues related to that. So there is hope.
Yes, there is.
Aliano,
Thank you, Aliano. Thank you, Aliano.
Yeah, and I think that one of the important things is to put a face to people, and that's why it's important for us to have the dialogue. Because once people see that, it's King. It's not, oh, King is a gay man or King is bisexual. It's like, this is King. Hello, my name is King. And all of that other stuff, yes, it comprises who he is and it makes up who he is, but you don't have to have that.
Person first.
Yeah, he is a person, and there's his face, and there's his talents, and all of the wonderful things that he has to offer to the world. And that now as a Caymanian society, because we have been unaccepting of him and unable to put procedures in place that allow him to bloom here in our community, somebody else is benefiting from, his talents, musically and otherwise. Thank goodness that because of the technology that we have in place, he's able to remotely help the LGBTQ community here in the Cayman Islands. But, it is still a loss to our country. I mean, Noel is Noel. He is a business owner. He is involved in multiple nonprofit organizations. He loves to cook. He loves to bake. Get to know people and who they are before you try to judge them on some artificial understanding of the LGBT community in your head. Noel and I have been talking for a minute now about doing a segment on, some of his baking and cooking because he makes the most amazing cakes ever. So, some of his designs are like out of this world interesting. So, we want to spend some time like getting to know someone like him. Get to know who people are. Don't be so quick to just label them. Oh, they're gay, they're
That's
bisexual,
it.
they're this, they're transgender. That is a part of who they are, but that is not everything, right?
We
There's
are
so much.
people first.
Yes.
Everything else after.
Yep.
Hallelujah.
Yeah,
All right.
Cassidy, thank you so much for tuning in. So we're out of time this morning. Again, thank you to both of my guests. Appreciate you coming onto the program this morning. Like I said, I know it takes a lot of courage. I am committed to continuing having these conversations, as I am to having many other conversations, whether it's child abuse or anything else in this community. I know a lot of these things make some people uncomfortable, but that has no bearing on me. I will continue to discuss it.
Sandy,
Right.
Keep at it,
we're gonna
Sandy.
bring you
Keep
on our
it going.
platform one day. We're gonna invite
Sorry.
you. We're gonna invite you on our platform one day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the dialogue. I think if we can't even have discourse and conversation about things, whether we agree, disagree, or whatever, that's the beginning of change, in
Yeah.
my humble opinion. So, folks, I just want to remind you all that we do have a very, very exciting week in store for you. One of the things that will be on tomorrow's agenda, and I'm so tickled about this, and I hope that all of you can tune in, is at 2 p.m. We are actually going to be having a media conversation. This is going to be a roundtable media conversation, and we have a lineup of people that is amazing, journalists from all over the world. We've got a representative from the Miami Herald, Reuters, Jamaica, the USA, journalists right here in Cayman. So Wendy Ledger will be joining us. And I'm just so excited to have this conversation about the changing face of media in Cayman and around the world. And this comes on the heel of the Compass making this announcement that they will now start charging for content. And there's been so many changes in the world of media over the past 10 to 15 years, with a movement, towards everything being more online and accessible in that manner, that it's a conversation that we need to have. And in fact, the irony of it is I was trying to book this conversation, this roundtable, from as late February, early March, and then the COVID shutdown kind of hit, and everybody was focused on just COVID, and we had to put this on the back burner. But the conversation has reemerged. We're having it again, because as of yesterday, if you go to the Compass now and you read an article, this is what you'll get. You will get a message that says, subscribe now for unlimited access to the Cayman Compass. You can do monthly, or you can do it per annum. And that's how you will now be able to read, because the Compass is admittedly trying to survive in the digital space. So join us tomorrow. I think you guys will be really, really pleased with the lineup starting at 2 p.m. I'm still a little bit torn on whether or not I may do a morning segment. I think I might just take the morning off, since we're going to be having the afternoon segment. And we've aligned it at 2 p.m. because we've got people, like I said, in multiple jurisdictions from around the world, different time zones. So the most feasible time for everyone was at 2 p.m. So please tune in. The conversation is going to be very interesting. We'll get to hear their perspectives from international media to regional and local media. We have a young lady from Bermuda as well. She now lives in the UK. What she will bring to the table, a Reuters writer who is located in Jamaica, a writer from the Miami Herald. So it is, an amazing lineup of individuals who work in the space of media and provide news content. So thank you guys so much. Fit Jamaican Girl, shout out to you. Thank you for tuning in. Noelle, please wish your mom a happy birthday from all of the fans here on Cayman Mall Road. Send a little photo and we'll put that up on our page. wishing her a lovely day and hope that she gets to enjoy all that her birthday has in store for her. And I know Noel treats her well, so I'm sure he's going to take her out for lunch or do something fun with her today. So folks, once again, appreciate the love and support as always. On Friday, I had the pleasure of meeting two young ladies. One is 16 and one is 19, who are huge fans of Cayman Mall Road. And their dad was saying to me, you have no idea how long they've wanted to meet you. It's like you have celebrity status. And I was kind of blushing. But I love that young people are engaged and they like the platform. And remember, we're still working on a youth show. It's been a little bit slow to come, but we are working behind the scenes and getting that off the ground in due course, because we want to give them their own platform. We want them to be able to come on and say what they got to say, be honest, and not be judged because of it. So have a great day, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.